From a vantage point tens of thousands of miles distant, the Earth looks in many ways like countless other astronomical objects. It is an 8,000 mile in diameter, nearly spherical object rotating in space. Its surface appears somewhat bluish, being 70% covered by water. A thin veil of gases barely 300 miles thick shrouds the planet. Yet it is in this atmosphere that Earth's most spectacular feature is found. Very low in the atmosphere, almost touching the Earth's surface, swirls an intricate and beautiful pattern of clouds. They cover on the average 54% of the Earth's surface. Their movement from our space vantage point would seem well ordered, although the motion would not seem uniform. Earth seems to be strongly illuminated on one side by the nearest star. Only a tiny fraction of the sun's total energy, though, is caught by the Earth each day. But even this quantity of energy is immense. The distribution of this energy is quite uneven. Large areas of the surface are very cold and ice-covered, while other areas are warm. This provides the thermal driving force which keeps the atmosphere bubbling and churning, moving the cloud patterns about constantly, and indeed creating the clouds themselves. In such a turbulent atmosphere, all of this energy is released in countless ways, occasionally in violent ways. Tightly wound, spiraling hurricanes develop. Great winter storms mix warm and cold air in their giant circulations, which cover 1,000 miles. But the single most violent release of the sun's energy is a very, very small storm, less than 1 mile wide. Of all the winds that sweep this planet's surface, tornadoes are the most violent. Their time on Earth is short, and their destructive path rather small. But the march of these short-lived storms through populated areas leaves a path of terrible destruction. In seconds, a tornado can transform a thriving street into a ruin, and hope into despair.
And the lights across the street went out twice before we ran.
You got under the bed?
The kids did. I couldn't get under there.
It just sounded like a big whooshing void in the hail, and the top of the ceiling and everything started piling in on top of us.
What did it sound like last night when the storm started?
Well, it went goosh, goosh, stop a while and then goosh. We was in that little storm cellar, and that's just the way it sounded. And the hail seemed like that big on that cellar door.
Nature's most violent storm, the tornado. The subject of our program tonight, Skywarn 76. Good evening, I'm Ron Howard.
And I'm Valerie Jones.
In the next 30 minutes, we hope you'll learn something about tornadoes that maybe you didn't know before. We hope that most importantly, you'll learn more about what you can do to protect yourself and your family in the event of a tornado. And in the next few days, we hope you'll sit down with the entire family and discuss what each member of your family would do if they saw a tornado approach. You say a tornado isn't going to happen around here anyway, so why bother? Well, the odds are very small that you'll ever see a tornado. But history shows that that's a gamble that it wouldn't be wise to place your life on, because tornadoes are certainly no strangers to Indiana or Illinois. Easter Sunday, 1913, Terre Haute experiences its worst tornado disaster in history. 13 dead and $1 million in damage. March 18, 1925, the single most devastating tornado on record kills 606 people in Illinois alone.
March 1948, tornadoes ripped through central Indiana from Vigo to Jay counties, destroying 80% of Coatesville and leaving 20 fatalities. May 1949, Sullivan and Clay counties are struck with $1 million in damage and 14 fatalities. Palm Sunday, 1965, the worst single-family tornado outbreak hits northern and central Indiana, leaving 137 persons dead and close to $1 billion in damage.
April 3rd, 4th, 1974, a super outbreak of 148 tornadoes in 16 hours kills 315 and injures 5,484 others. 31 twisters occur in the two-state area, killing 48 persons in Indiana, 2 in Illinois. Over 2,000 Hoosier homes are destroyed. The Monticello tornado leaves an incredible 121-mile-long path of destruction across northern Indiana.
November 10th, 1975, a mini tornado touches down on the south side of Terre Haute. Although damage from the storm was isolated in some areas and was heavy, basically it was limited and only 3 minor injuries were reported. But the fact that it occurred in the very early morning hours of a November day serves as a reminder that tornadoes can strike any time, any place.
So the threat is very real. Tornadoes have occurred in this part of the country and they will continue to occur. So, some information you need to know. Questions and important answers about tornadoes coming up next. Nearly everyone who lives in the Midwest has many questions about tornadoes, and what we're going to do to answer some of those is a little question and answer session trying to cover the most frequently asked questions. First of all, let's get down to basics. What is a tornado anyway, and how are they formed?
Well, a tornado or twister is a violent whirlwind storm that revolves in a counterclockwise direction in the northern hemisphere. The formation of tornadoes begins within strong thunderstorms, so first we need to know how a thunderstorm is formed. The energy needed to develop and maintain thunderstorms comes from instability, the clash of cold and warm air, and from large quantities of water vapor. When all of these conditions come together, for example, they could be found when warm, moist air is forced to rise ahead of the leading edge of a cold front, strong thunderstorms develop. The thunderstorms themselves are quite powerful. For example, the total energy, what we call kinetic energy, or energy of motion, involved in 10 strong thunderstorms is estimated to be similar to the kinetic energy of an atomic bomb. Fortunately, very little of this energy ever touches the earth, and very few thunderstorms ever produce tornadoes. But when all the energy is available and favorable, conditions can result that produce tornado outbreaks and a strong updraft develops. And when this updraft develops into a spinning, whirling tornado, it reaches down towards the earth. Since the majority of tornadoes form within thunderstorms ahead of cold fronts, here in Indiana and Illinois, most tornadoes travel from southwest to northeast. And that is the reason why it's important to watch the sky in the southwest for approaching storms. One question that puzzles many people is, just what is there about tornadoes that makes them so destructive?
Well, tornadoes do their damage with a triple punch. First, strong rotary winds within the funnel may reach 300 miles an hour. This provides sufficient force to flatten frame buildings. The horizontal winds of the tornado drove this wooden stake into the steel fence post. And on several occasions, reports have been made of pieces of straw driven into telephone poles by the tornadic winds. The second force is the terrific updraft, which can reach 100 miles an hour. Sufficient force is sometimes developed to lift very heavy objects. On May 27, 1931, just east of Moorhead, Minnesota, a tornado lifted 5 railroad cars, each weighing 70 tons, right off the track. And one of these cars was hurled 80 feet and laid in the ditch. Another important damaging force of tornadoes is the effect of dramatically lowered atmospheric pressure within the tornado. This can cause buildings to literally explode unless the pressure inside can be equalized with the much lower pressure outside. For example, the total force on a 25 by 50 foot home could be on the order of 198 tons. And this kind of force would be applied in as little as 10 seconds with obvious results. So the tornado does its destructive dirty work through a combination of very low pressure at the center of the storm and the damaging winds. We've often heard a lot about tornado season. Just when do tornadoes occur?
Well, tornadoes can occur at any time. For example, just in 1975 in the fall, a tornado touched down on the south side of Terre Haute about 2 o'clock in the morning on November 10th. Nighttime tornadoes in Indiana are not unheard of. In the past 50 years, 16% of all reported tornadoes have occurred from midnight to 7 a.m. But the majority of tornadoes, especially tornadoes producing injury, occur in the afternoon and evening hours, from 2 to 7 p.m. This is the time of day when the maximum heat energy from the sun is available. Tornadoes can also occur any season of the year. 21 tornadoes have been recorded in November in Indiana in the past 50 years, but over 2/3 of all tornadoes occur in the spring and early summer, from March through July, and the greatest outbreak occurs in April. It has been said that tornadoes probably won't strike around here. Well, just where do they occur?
Well, first of all, tornadoes have occurred on every continent in the world, but they're most frequent in Australia and North America. But really, nowhere in the world is as favorable for the formation of tornadoes than the central U.S. Tornadoes have occurred in all 50 states, but they're most likely to occur over a certain pattern. The states that have the most tornadoes per 10,000 square mile make up a deadly top 10. The first ranking state in tornado density is Oklahoma, the state that has the most tornadoes per 10,000 square miles of area. But Indiana ranks a surprising and possibly a frightening second. The plain state of Kansas is third. Florida is fourth, although many Florida tornadoes are not as intense as the ones up north. Iowa ranks fifth. The state of Missouri ranks sixth. Mississippi ranks seventh in tornadoes per 10,000 square miles. Neighboring Illinois ranks eighth. Texas ranks ninth, the #1 state in the actual numbers of tornadoes, but it's a big state. And Nebraska ranks 10th in tornadoes per 10,000 square miles. In terms of fatalities, Indiana ranks third, behind Texas, Oklahoma, and Michigan. Now, as far as being immune from tornadoes because of certain geographic features, the people of Topeka, Kansas thought they were immune from tornadoes because of a mound or a hill lying to the southwest of the city. But on June 5th, 1966, a tornado moved right up over that hill, making a destructive path right through the heart of Topeka. And in the April 3rd outbreak, the Blue Ridge tornado surmounted a 3,300-foot mountain in northern Georgia. And rivers offer no obstacle for tornadoes either. The Brandenburg tornado of April 3rd, 1974 moved from Kentucky into Indiana, of course crossing the Ohio River, and even substantially lowering the water level along the river. Even being struck by a tornado once doesn't assure you of any immunity the second time. On that April 3rd date alone, 6 American cities were struck by tornadoes twice. Huntsville, Alabama encountered twisters at 10:55 and 11:05 p.m., just 10 minutes apart. Well, we all have weather signs that we go look for as far as forecasting the weather. Is there really such a thing as tornado weather?
Yes, there really is. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes certain signs become noticeable before the approach of a tornado. Mr. Bruce Halbert of Petersburg, Indiana, captured some of this on film before and during a tornado touchdown in Monroe County on May 1973. The cloud formations were building rapidly on the 27th that afternoon. It was warm and humid. The air was still and calm. The birds were quiet. Soon the atmosphere grew oppressive, almost stifling, as the sky darkened in the west. And in tornado weather, cloud colors can range from black to green to yellow. But on this day, cloud colors ranged from light gray to gray blue. Suddenly, the calm was broken by a rush of wind. Dark cloud edges whipped overhead and the temperature dropped. Then a deafening roar filled the air, and at the same time the tornado was spotted. Heavy rain and hail began to fall as the full force of the storm hit. In dealing with severe weather, there are two terms that have often been confused. Just what is the difference between a tornado watch and a tornado warning?
Well, first of all, we must realize that the tornado is not only nature's most destructive storm, it's also the most unpredictable. It simply isn't possible to forecast the exact time and occurrence of a tornado. So the forecasting emphasis then is necessarily placed on recognizing those conditions which favor tornado formation. The National Severe Storms Forecast Center in Kansas City, Missouri is at the center of the system. It's a highly specialized forecast office designed to monitor weather conditions across the U.S. 24 hours a day, looking for trouble. Early each morning, the Severe Storm Center prepares a severe weather outlook. Now, this is a map outline of the area in which weather conditions could result in severe thunderstorms anytime during the day. If conditions do worsen, the next step is the issuance of a tornado watch. A tornado watch normally covers a rather large area, usually about 140 miles wide and 200 miles long, and it's normally in effect for 4 to 8 hours. A watch does not signify that tornadoes have been sighted. It's designed simply to inform persons in the watch area of the possibility of tornado development. Persons in the watch area need not interrupt their normal activities except to watch for threatening weather. Persons in the area should, however, stay tuned to radio or TV for further weather information.
Gigantic, R3.
Now, if a tornado is actually sighted, a tornado warning is issued by a local forecast office of the National Weather Service. Tornado warning means that a tornado has actually touched down. The tornado warning, first of all, always indicates the location and the speed and direction of tornado travel at the time it was sighted. And it's issued for all of those counties which might lie in the path of the storm. And it's usually in effect for a relatively short time, about 1 hour. When a tornado warning is issued, persons in the path of the tornado should take cover immediately. Well, what do we mean by take cover immediately? If the tornado approaches, what should I do? Where should I go?
To protect yourself and your home, the best place to seek shelter is in your basement. Now, it's important to remember in the basement that the corner of the basement which offers the greatest protection is always closest to the direction from which the tornado is approaching. In other words, since most tornadoes in Illinois and Indiana come from the southwest, that means usually the southwest corner is the safest. If you don't have a basement, though, go to the interior portion of your home on the ground floor. A closet in the interior portion affords good protection. If you don't have a closet, then go to an interior hallway. However, stay away from load-bearing walls and chimneys. Always remember to sit down and stay low. It's a good idea to get under a heavy table or another heavy piece of furniture. If you don't have a basement, interior closet, or an interior hallway, a bathtub also provides shelter as long as it is not near any windows. Whatever area you decide on, remember to have blankets handy, so in the event of a tornado, you can wrap the blanket around you and shield your head and eyes from flying debris. Also, be sure to wear shoes, because in the wake of a tornado, sharp debris and broken glass is common. Speaking of glass, always open some windows to protect your house from pressure buildup. It's best to open windows and doors on the northeast side of your house or the side away from the approaching tornado. Then be sure to stay away from all window and glass areas. If you have time, be sure to secure all loose objects outside, such as lawn chairs and bicycles, because if they're picked up by tornado winds, they can be sent through the air like missiles. If you're driving in your car and seek shelter in a ditch, but whenever you seek shelter in a ditch and lay down face down, be sure that you stay away from cars and also from trees. It's important to stay away from automobiles because, as you can see here, this used to be an automobile before a tornado wrapped it around a tree. If a tornado is coming, never stay in a mobile home. A mobile home, even if it is tied down, offers no protection against the forces of a tornado. And of course, always stay alert, keep listening to the radio or TV, and make sure that everything has cleared, there's no danger before you resume your normal activity.
In schools and office buildings, the basement, if there is one, is still the best place. If there is no basement, moving to a hallway at the center of the building on the lowest floor is the best idea. But long hallways, which have doors opening to the southwest, should be avoided because of wind tunnel effects. It's important to get as low as possible and cover the face and head to shield from flying debris. And now some other places to avoid in large buildings: auditoriums, gymnasiums, or other places with large free-span roofs. Likewise, cafeterias or lunchrooms that may have a lot of glass should also be avoided because pieces of glass moving through the air at 200 miles an hour are certainly lethal. This brings up the two main factors that are particularly dangerous to human beings. First of all, we've touched upon the idea of flying debris. This is the principal cause of most tornado injuries. Do whatever you can to avoid that danger by wrapping yourself in a blanket, lying as low as possible, and covering your face and head, staying away from glass windows. The second thing is simply being crushed by something that's falling from a building or a structure, or from your automobile, as we've outlined. Get away from your car. In a building, try and stay away from heavy walls, load-bearing walls, chimneys, anything constructed of brick, because that's going to come down on top of you when the tornado does its destructive work.
If you can't remember all those rules, as a community service, MEAS, in cooperation with TV2, has printed a list of safety rules and some tornado information. They're available at MEAS, Downtown, Plaza North, and Honey Creek. Okay.
Keep it in a conspicuous place so you'll know what to do. Coming up next, hunting for tornadoes and a look at the forefront of tornado research.
If a tornado does form, how can it be located?
Despite rapid advances in technology, the best tornado detectors are still human eyes and ears. Tornado spotters like these of the Area Amateur Radio Emergency Corps use their mobile and portable radio equipment to coordinate the watch for severe weather. But any citizen who sights a tornado is in a position to save many lives by phoning in a report to the nearest law enforcement agency. Aside from human eyes, radar offers the best severe storms detection. Weather radar tracking the movement and monitoring the intensity of thunderstorms. And since tornadoes are always associated with thunderstorms, radar is successful in pinpointing potential trouble spots. Small, less intense tornadoes often escape radar detection, but the strongest, most devastating tornadoes produce this characteristic six-hook pattern. This is the radar echo of the Xenia, Ohio tornado of April 3, 1974, from the WHIO TV radar in Dayton, Ohio. The tornado itself was located directly underneath the ball at the end of the hook. And the radar capability enabled staff meteorologist Gil Whitney to alert viewers to the position and the movement of this killer tornado which devastated Xenia, Ohio. Since 1967, geostationary weather satellites have contributed much useful severe storms data. These satellites are placed in an orbit which keeps them over the same fixed area of the Earth's surface, and this allows continuous monitoring of the Earth's blanket of clouds over a given area. The awesome buildup of a squall line of thunderstorms can often be seen most clearly from above. Well, is there anything on the drawing board that might make forecasting and detecting tornadoes a little bit better in the future?
Well, there may not be a foolproof procedure in the future, but a great improvement in accuracy and speed of tornado forecasting is expected. Just this spring, a new system is being tried out for the first time at the National Severe Storms Forecast Center in Kansas City and major National Weather Service offices. This system utilizes computers in Washington, D.C. and television pictures to relay charts and severe weather information at speeds 5 to 10 minutes faster than the old method. A complex expansion of this computerized network is called AFROST and is expected to be installed at most National Weather Service offices in the next 10 years. Why are some buildings in the path of a tornado destroyed while others are left relatively untouched?
Okay, that's a toughie, and the theory that has been advanced to explain it is simply that although an intense tornado may look to be a single cone of high-velocity winds, in the most intense tornadoes we may actually see a number of funnels or vortices swirling about the parent system's center. And this would explain why some buildings are destroyed if they happen to be between these funnels in the main thunderstorm. Now, Wally Hubbard, a photographer for Channel 8 in Indianapolis, shot this film on April 3rd, 1974, of the Parker tornado about 10 miles east of Muncie. So far, there doesn't seem to be anything unusual about the tornado. But watch closely in this view coming up. Right at this point, if you look closely, the tornado appears to break up, and the current theory says that tornadoes of an intense nature may actually spin themselves apart. They become unstable and break up. This film is the first documented evidence to support the multiple vortex theory. A number of studies of the film have shown that up to 7 separate funnels at one time were involved in this devastating Parker tornado. Closer look at the Hubbard film would show individually 3 funnels descending from that main tornado storm. That's really right at the forefront of tornado research, and that's exactly what we need is more research, because through an improved understanding of tornadoes we can no doubt save even more lives in the future.
And we hope in the past 30 minutes that we have answered most of your questions about tornadoes and that this information has been helpful to you and your family.
We'd like to repeat that suggestion we made at the beginning of the program. Would you please, sometime in the next few days, sit down with your family and discuss your safety plans, where to go and what you do if a tornado does approach. Because a tornado doesn't have to be deadly if you know what to do.